Vision of 4 Heroes, the latest paid DLC of Dynasty Warriors Origins, promised a large expansion to the base game with the introduction of 4 additional campaigns and 2 new weapon types. And I'm gonna say this right off the bat, the amount of content that the DLC offers is kinda disappointing given the price tag, to be honest. First, let's talk about how the campaigns play out. The 4 new campaigns revolve around Zhangjiao, Dongzhuo, Yuanshao, and Liubu, and you can access them via a menu in the inn, which I found to be rather weird because while the campaigns are what-if dream sequence, they all obviously start at certain points in the main story, like Zhangjiao's campaign starts right before the boss fight against him, or Dongzhuo starts just before the battle against the 10 attendants. These campaigns could have been easily and more naturally integrated into the game better by giving the player the option to choose to join these 4 heroes when they reach certain parts in the main story, but the fact that you could only access them via the menu in the inn makes them feel so disconnected from the rest of the game. I guess they did this because the DLC campaigns explicitly mention some plot-related stuff that are only revealed later in the main story in a very matter-of-fact manner, so by making the campaigns live in their own separate menu, it would minimize the spoiler stuff. I don't know, but that's not that big of a deal or anything whatsoever. Each campaign is fairly short, consisting of just 3 main battles and a few smaller strategic battles, which is a new type of battle that wasn't in the base game. Some campaigns have more strategic battles than the others, but in this mode, your faction units move out to engage with the enemy on the overworld map in a limited number of turns. You can choose which enemy unit to battle with. Winning nets a secret strategy that can be used in battle, like conjuring a small area that buffs your attack, or summoning a sweeping gale to sweep across the enemy formation. After each battle, you get some unit action points, which can be used to do a unit attack that directly inflicts damage onto the enemy unit to aid ally units in a battle that you are not joining. When the number of turns are used up or all the enemy units except the main one are wiped out, then the decisive battle against the enemy main force occurs. I had fun with these battles and think it's a pretty good addition to the game format, but it makes more sense to have them be some sort of extra side mode or be in the Empire spin-off instead of being in the main campaign progression. As it is, these strategic battles kinda feel like fillers to artificially lengthen the campaign. Even with the addition of strategic battles, and each main battle has a fairly larger scale compared to the usual battle from the base game, each campaign can be beaten in just over 2 or 3 hours. If you don't let all the voice lines play out, then you could finish them all in less than a weekend. I personally do appreciate the campaigns being on the shorter length this time around, as it makes the plot more concentrated and has less unnecessary fluff that tracks down the pacing, but I know for a fact that a lot of people will be disappointed by this point. Out of the 4 campaigns, I found Yuanshao's campaign to be the most consistent in tone and theme, and I really like how it involves other characters usually not associated with Yuanshao faction, though at the same time it did come at the cost of his existing officers not having much needed screen time. Zhangjiao's campaign started out strong and poses some interesting questions regarding both Zhangjiao as a character and the Yellow Turban as a faction, but the ending is rather nonsensical, though that could be chalked up as the Musou gameplay format can't possibly dwell too deep into political and philosophical matters. Dongzhuo's campaign is very fun, as it's basically his point of view during what transpires before and after Hulao Gate in the base game, and the campaign has some of my favorite battles in the DLC. However, the campaign ends rather abruptly, cutting the fun rather short and somewhat unsatisfying, but it kinda makes sense why it ended in such a way once you accept the fact that the campaign must end after the 3rd main battle. Liubu's campaign is probably the weakest of the 4 and feels like the last battle is just a setup of one more final and bigger battle, but such battle never came. There are also no new unique maps, only reused ones from the base game with different events happening throughout the stage, so that's another minus. After you finished one route, or almost finish it, as in the case of Zhangjiao's route, you are rewarded with new outfits. I don't really like the look of most of these except the Garb of Peace, but hey, more unlockable outfits are always a neat thing. Then there's the matter of difficulty. Everything within the DLC is scaled according to your current level, and I already 100% the base game, so my protagonist was at the max base game level, so everything in the DLC are just massive HP sponges. This isn't that much of a problem with the main battles in the campaign. Because of the massive scale of the stage, the enemy throws an endless amount of hyper-aggressive enemies at you, and I found it to be very fun to dance around the battle, trying to survive the massive chaos going on. But in the extra trials in the training area, there is less enemy density but a massive inflation in the HP bar, so tackling these trials just feels incredibly tedious. I appreciate the extra challenges these trials bring, but I would rather the Death Note think bigger HP bar equals more fun boss fights, because it definitely is not, it's just tedium. Now about those new weapons, the bow and the rope dart. The bow can be obtained early in the first stage of Changel's mandatory route, while the rope dart is obtained way later. I'm not sure if the rope dart is a random drop or something, but I only got it during the final battle of Yuan Xiao's route. Out of the two, the bow is the easier to pick up and play weapon. Its common, normal, and heavy attack strings are slashing attacks, while pressing the guard button combined with the attack button changes the attacks into arrow shooting. When you finish either the normal or heavy attack string, you gain 1 point of vigor as indicated by the slashing finger on the protagonist's back, and spending vigor hastens the speed of your shooting attacks. Most of the weapon's martial abilities are also variations of shooting arrows or fully charge your vigor. I like the weapon, it's not very flashy but it gets the job done, and thanks to the vigor thing and the martial ability to fully charge the vigor helps the weapon getting up to speed in the DPS department compared to other weapons from the base game pretty fast. The rope dart is not exactly the more complex one, but it does require a bit more time to get used to. The rope dart has attacks consisting of wide-range sweeps and forward lunging thrusts, and these lunging thrusts can be followed up by the dodge button to launch yourself towards the enemy, and while being thrusted forward you can do a unique spinning air attack. Most of the attack of the weapon has the protagonist spins the rope around a bit before actually committing to the attack, so there's this weird delay between the button press and the attack coming out, so the weapon-based moveset can feel a bit sluggish. That said though, the martial abilities of the weapon are very cheap, costing only 1 or 2 bravery points, so you can dish them out a lot more compared to other weapons. So once you unlock more of the weapon's martial abilities and learn the rhythm of chaining them together, the weapon feels pretty good to use. In the end, it actually becomes my preferred weapon between the two DLC weapons. So all in all, a decent DLC pack of some rather brief but very grand scale battles. Story is somewhat lacking except for Yuan Xiao's route, and the two new weapons are worthwhile additions to what's already there. The DLC is basically more what you already love from the base game, but I don't really think the amount of content it offers really justifies it being called a major expansion and its price tag. In the past, the Extreme Legends expansions, ripped to the multi-curve IOA, were truly expansions as they tend to add in not just new campaigns or battles, but also new side modes and sometimes new characters and weapons too. Destiny mode from 5 Extreme Legends still remain the best side mode in the series, and Origins really should have been a more polished version of that mode. Granted, inflation is a bitch, but Vision of 4 Heroes cost as much as these Extreme Legends expansions, while the content it offers really bare in comparison to what we've had before really sucks. Then there's the fact that many of the game's more annoying aspects that really kill the game's pacing are still unaddressed, like the constant camera movements or time slowing down when the enemy's bravery breaks, or when they activate tactics in large force battle, or goes into rage mode are still in the game. If anything, this got worse because the enemy in the DLCs are a lot more hyper-aggressive. Granted, I would have loved the fix to be in a free update, not in a DLC, but it's been a year and they're still there. I personally enjoyed the DLC, but I honestly really can't in my good conscience recommend you buying the DLC. Maybe if you really love the base game and when there's a sale going on, otherwise the base game alone is already plenty of Dynasty Warriors Origins goodness.